Okay, I will call this meeting to order at 6:33. Is there anybody here who needs an introduction? I don't believe there is. Okay. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda? Anybody? No. I'll take a motion to approve the minutes from the July 11th meeting.
So moved.
Second, anybody?
Second, Davis.
Okay. Davis, how do you vote?
Aye.
Bill, how do you vote?
Aye.
Nancy, how do you vote?
Aye.
Rebecca, how do you vote?
I'm going to abstain. I didn't even read him.
Okay.
She has no internet.
Yeah, right.
And I am an aye. I think that's everybody here. Okay. Public participation. Hold on, let me read the thing.
There is a person.
What's that?
There is a person I saw.
Okay. Public comment. Public comment is not legally required, but we believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community members about their concerns over issues. Through these meetings, our board models for students how to conduct public discourse, and that the board and members of our community can approach controversial issues in a civil and constructive manner and can demonstrate mutual respect. Having said that, please note that the board is here to listen. A public comment period is not designed for discussion. Does anybody have a public comment that they would like to make? Okay, hearing none. Next part is, the administrative report.
I'll share. Is that okay? Jen and Colleen, Sergio? Okay. All right. I believe one of the lead learners is going to take it from here. I'll go to the next slide.
I'm happy to jump in and get us started. So how we're organized, just making sure that we're clear kind of like who the point people are. We still see ourselves as a group of administrators, but we just want to make sure people are clear about how it's sort of falling out in terms of point people. We're going to talk about our hiring updates and what we were up to on our retreats.
All right.
And so we got 4 administrators across the Mountain County School District, and here's how they're laid out. Over at Albert Bridge would be myself primarily at the K-6 level. At Windsor at the K-5 level, Sergio's taking lead. And then Colleen is over at the 6-8 Windsor area, and Kate Ryan is taking over 9 through 12 at Windsor Schools.
And we'll be sharing this out with parents in the community and staff as well.
Are there going to be different other areas of administration that will be assigned to each?
Particular leads for different areas?
Yeah.
Yes, there will. We haven't just established those yet.
Okay.
All right, Jen, you're going to continue, I think.
Yeah, perfect. So last month I didn't seem to have slides available for you guys, so I just want to make sure you guys had a sense of what our June ended up with, which would have been in our July report. Just a lot of joy at the end of the year. We had field day, mountain day, 6th grade field trip, canoe trip, world story exchange. So just lots of really positive ways to send the kids off for the summer. Most of it really focusing around our sense of community.
Jennifer, what is World Story Exchange?
That's a great question. So you'll see the center picture in that PowerPoint. There's a picture of pictures. And the World Story Exchange is really an organization that works with schools across the globe. Actually, they do a lot of work in many different countries. And their goal is to help people, and primarily children at different age levels, to start to see the world through the lens of a camera. And then from there to build skills in taking a picture, to tell their story. So what we're seeing, what we had happen was every child in the school had access to a camera at a given point. We're taught some basic skills and things to look for and to pay attention to. So then they went out and took pictures. So every child now has this photo on the wall of our school that is from their view. And you'll see a lot of nature pictures because a lot of it was in nature, but there's some really creative ones too. If you ever have a chance to stop by the school and just walk through, there's just, you know, pretty powerful pictures by 6-year-olds. And it's pretty amazing when you stop and think that some child had the notion to take a picture of the reflection of the world behind them through the lens of a spoon. I mean, it's just pretty remarkable. Or to really focus in on a little bitty bug on their arm. So you can see the hairs on their arms. It's pretty awesome. And our goal is over the next couple of years is to work to get cameras so that every classroom can have their own time with this process as we develop skills, and the World Story Exchange organizers help us as a staff develop those same skills.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
All right, there you go.
And then over the summer, just a couple of things have been going on. We've had some community support to really help us keep the garden going, which is a really, you may not realize this, but it's a big task over the summer when all the students and teachers leave, just to keep the garden going. And so we've had community members really step up and help us. And so every grade has their own plots that are harvest. The goal is to have a harvest in the fall. So they're growing. We're doing well. We've lost a few things, but we're still problem solving over the summer. Treehouse, our treehouse, which is our social emotional learning lab, is being extended this year, cutting a little bit into the library, but the way it's working out is that it gives a little bit more separation for the library, so it's less distracting in the library. And we've supported a music concert series in the town of West Windsor, which housed a traveling group of artists who came and did remarkably high quality music over a period of 3 days, and it was outstandingly breathtaking. And our goal is to continue to provide models of real people presenting their art forms, much like the photos over the course of the years ahead.
That was an amazing series, I have to say.
Remarkable, just breathtaking.
A gift. Yep.
Right. And then for our new hires, and this is across the whole district, we're still looking for a pre-K teacher. Looking in the K through 5 range, we've got most of those positions filled, looks like. So an interventionist over in Windsor primarily will be Amber Bennett. We have a new 3rd grade teacher primarily over at Windsor, which is Elizabeth Feinberg. A 3-4 multi-age teacher at Albert Bridge, Olivia Pierce. 4th grade and 5th grade, so Jillian Krieg and Joshua Lambert over at Windsor. The 6, 7, 8 team, in fact, let me pass this on if you don't mind, Colleen, to take over 6, 7, 8 team.
Sure, we used last month, so I just highlighted the yellow because that was the only change for us since last month. On the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade team, Destiny and Melissa are moving from our 5, 6 team into the 6, 7, 8 team. The middle school counselor is a need, a want. we are also looking for that high school counselor still. So we are trying to fill our high school position first and our middle school counselor position second. And all of these were similar to last month. Elizabeth was the only person that we've signed on since we talked last month. We're very excited to have Elizabeth with us for third grade. And I don't remember if Katie had an addition for the pre-K. Sorry, Katie.
Oops.
She had
She
a hand up,
pressed,
did she disappear?
well, she pressed the.
Oh,
Sorry, I
up
put my
instead of
hand down and
unmute.
didn't unmute. I'll get it someday.
Okay.
Jennifer, it's okay. Jessica Langlois, it's Langlois, is our pre-K teacher in the second pre-K. And we are still looking for an elementary special educator and a high school special educator.
and some school counselors, if anybody wants to come out of retirement.
And mental health clinicians, I forgot that one. 3 across the SU.
I was just joking,
I know you.
but not joking.
I did that like today. You're sweet. Thank you.
All right, next slide is me. So I wanted to just give you an update. The administrative team has spent some time together over the last couple of weeks. We had a retreat. We were 3 days together. And we did a lot of work. We had some fun. We did some team building, and we also did some activities around who we are as a team. And we engaged in a core values activity. And it's a tough activity to do. It's each person gets a stack of core value cards. You start out with roughly 50, then you got to whittle it down to your top 10, and then you have to whittle it down to your top 5, and then you have to whittle it down to your top 3. So this is a compilation of all the team's core values, their final 3 core values. And the ones that are larger are the ones that had multiple people identify them as their top 3. So integrity, community, and family are pretty important to all of the members of our team. And then there are lots of other things that we value: collaboration and happiness and wisdom and competence and helping others. So we wanted to come together as a team to figure out who we are. So that was one activity that we did. And we intend to share this out with staff as well, so that they know what their administrative team is all about, what we value most. We then spent some time, based on the work that we've done recently, recognized that we really haven't crafted our vision as an administrative team, what we believe the vision of WSESU might be, and we recognize this is our thinking in a draft, and we need to engage community and staff, but it was a starting place for us. And we started with Be the Voice, which is from our strategic plan and our core competencies, and we believe that our vision is embedded in our strategic plan, but not in a clear way. So that's where we started, and we worked in teams, and we had to do a visual activity where we had to draw what our vision looked like in an illustration. So yeah, it really is an interesting activity using the other side of your brain. And then from your illustration, and it could have been a magazine cover or a diagram, anything you wanted it to be, it just had to be represented in a picture. Then you attach words to it, and we worked together. I'll show you the finished products. They were similar. It was interesting, similar but a little bit different. We had 3 teams, and you see they're hard to see. I'm sorry, but they have similar language in them, like equity and excellence and wellness and community and collaboration and empathy and knowledge. And you can see one of our groups used technology as a resource to come up with theirs, and we did spin off of that one, and we tweaked it to suit all of our ideas. And so we have Be the Voice, Achieving, Leading, Learning, A Better Tomorrow for All, which is what we came up with. And we really wanted to come up with something succinct, that you can remember, that people can hang their hats on, and you can recite it. If somebody asks, who are you? We can say, this is who we are. So we have a draft. We know it's not the final version because we have a lot of work to do in that area, but we did go through that activity as a team. And we were,
That's just phenomenal. That's wonderful, that
isn't that
whole
awesome?
idea. And it just seems like folks are pretty much on the same path.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yes.
it's, you know, different way to get there, but
yeah.
yeah.
It was a fun activity, and it was really interesting to look at the different end products by the teams. They were very similar in different ways. So, and we'll do this work. I don't know how Mike Nicholson will help us do it with the community, but some sort of activities to
That sounds
come up with
exciting.
our visions. Yeah. And then I know we mentioned this, but I just wanted you to see it. And we took the van and we lost our paper license plate on the way, and we got pulled over by the police. There's Colleen and the police officer, and he was actually very nice, and we had to figure out we were very innovative and used our resources getting that sign back up using the sticky part of Post-its. We made it back, and I'm happy to report the plates came in. I think they came in Friday, so we'll have actual plates on the van. It was nice to have the van, I have to say, to ride together. And just some other information to keep people updated. Some of you are on this interview committee, but we did post the coordinator of diversity, equity, inclusion position. We formed a diverse interview committee with lots of different stakeholders. I've listed them there for you. We had a meeting last week. We selected our candidates. We selected our interview questions. And I'm happy to report that all 4 of the people that we're interviewing have accepted the invitation to interview. And we have 4 interviews this week, Wednesday and Thursday evenings. So we're excited about that. Jim has reported that our building maintenance projects are on track, and we should be ready to open our doors because the kids are coming no matter what. Our audit is underway. Ed and Larry have shared, and it should be completed by September, our FY22 audit. And then the last thing is, Larry reminded me that this board, I believe, selected the second Mondays of the month for their for the Mount Scottney board meeting. Somebody had said, oh, I thought it was the first, and so Larry just wants confirmation on when we're meeting because it's in the calendar as the second Monday of the month. And I think that was due to because
The West Windsor Select Board it meets concurrently on the first.
And you have back-to-back meetings also, like the SU meeting is the 4th Monday, so this gave you a week in between. And whatever works is great. He just wanted to confirm how we're moving forward.
I have a question.
Sure.
About the FY22 audit.
Mhm.
I thought, I wasn't sure how that is shared with the community and with the board. I don't even know if it's shared with the board.
I don't know. I don't ever recall hearing about it other than the audit is completed and there were no big issues, but.
And the reason I asked that question is because I was reading, and I can't remember, it was about audits under the School Board Association of Vermont, and they were talking about this subject, and they said there were different options that the school can do. The school can just, someone can just say the audit went fine, or they can bring it to the attention of the board. I don't know how others feel, but I would be interested in hearing about the audit. Rather than just everything went fine. It's like, what are the areas that you're looking at?
Yeah. Okay. I will ask Larry about that. I know one thing that we have, I can share just from my role as a principal, a couple of things that, and it's really related to e-finance and how that system works. You probably know this, we moved from, staff used to be able to go to Walmart and buy things and turn in their receipts and get reimbursed, and that is a big no-no from the auditors. We can't do that. We've tried to do some workarounds. So staff now can go in, there's a there's a request form on the website, and they can shop from Amazon or Staples or lots of different sites. It's just getting those sites in the system, which we do. I think Larry and Angie worked hard. Teachers really use a site called Teachers Pay Teachers frequently, and and you buy it on your own credit card. And they could get reimbursed in the past, but now they couldn't because we can't do reimbursements. But Larry worked hard to get, I'm not going to get this right completely with the language, the finance language, but we can use Teachers Pay Teachers now. The staff can use it, and they don't have to. We have an account, like a school account. So he worked that so they can use that without having to get reimbursed, which was a big deal.
Okay, and that's one of the issues that are looked at in an audit. Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
But I can bring back information when it's, I think it is completed in late September.
Okay.
All right, and when I share this out with you, I am just collecting, well, there's one more slide. I'm collecting middle level research just for your knowledge. So I'll share that with you. And there's a couple links there for if you're interested for our middle level, the work that we're doing around the middle level.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions for me? Stop sharing.
All right. Okay, items for discussion. First, let me update you on no small matter. I contacted my friend John, who said that he can provide, for $2,000, he can provide this online screening license, and also, importantly, for if anybody here has seen No Small Matter, we can have an hour-long Q&A session with the director and the main teacher in the documentary, which is pretty remarkable. Also, we can get that covered by the Vermont Community Foundation, which has covered it in like 4 or 5 other districts around our state. So I reached out to a couple of people to ask at Manasquite Prevention Partnership to ask whether they could help obtain those grants. But I'm going to copy you on notes from our meeting on Thursday. Okay. And so that is underway. There is already a huge groundswell of community interest in Brownsville to participate both in the No Small Matter screening and in the panel. And I wanted to point to Katie, who had a bunch of suggestions that I just wanted, I'm sorry to drag you to our meeting, Katie, but I just wanted to make sure that the board heard all of the suggestions as well. I'll be glad to follow up with them, but take it away, Katie.
Okay. Christine had filled me in on your retreat discussion, and a couple of the things. My background is training early childhood teachers, so that's part of my. I don't get to use it often anymore, but in following what's going on in the state, was thinking that it might be helpful if we can get some folks from Let's Grow Kids or Building Bright Futures to come and talk to the boards about the current landscape of early childhood education in the state. There's a fair amount of complexity beyond just staffing and locations and people closing. There's a huge groundswell right now, and what the state's doing on upping the requirements and making the profession more aligned with what we are used to in teacher education. And also some of the feedback received a couple of years ago when some of these discussions had happened before was really pulling in our local 166 partners plus our local providers that may not be 166 providers, individuals who provide birth through age 3 and not our 3 and ups, into the discussion as well. Because I think that's some of the feedback that I had heard loud and clear for a long time is we tend to at schools start thinking school models or what's available and lead, but there's already a huge, vast number of resources at our community level and pulling that all together because there's only so many resources to go around. And I think especially right now, it's probably the most critical time I've ever seen of making short order of and consolidating our resources that way and not competing. I think that's even when we built up our pre-K, it's taken us 3 years to add that second classroom as not to overtake or put anybody else out of business. I mean, and that is actually kind of the language that's used. So that was my suggestion and sort of the thought process behind that when I reached out to Elizabeth.
Thank you, Katie. I appreciate that. And I will make sure that all those people you suggested are invited to participate in the panel. And we have a lot of people interested in attending the panel, which is really exciting. So maybe we should have it set. We had said during our, well, let's get to the next thing, which is our, I think, goals derived from the retreat. I think we said that we were going to have the panel be part of a school board meeting, but it might be smarter to have it be separate from a school board meeting, but have it be a special, it only school board meeting.
Yeah, and we talked about whether it's because our early childhood is central.
SU, yeah.
It would need to be at an SU meeting or at a different kind of meeting.
That's right. That's right. So, so the pieces are that I am meeting with Courtney McHague on Thursday, and she is at the Mount Escutney Prevention Partnership. And we're going to talk about the Vermont Community Foundation grant, which, I mean, it's kind of, if you look at the VCF website, it is what VCF funds. So I don't think there will be a problem getting a grant from them. So those are the first two things that have to happen, sort of having that underway by the end of the week. And then the next week is securing people for the panel. Once we get an answer from, we should hear pretty quickly from the Vermont Community Foundation, because I can at least get a sense of whether we're looking good for that grant, because it's pretty small for them. We should know it shortly, and then we'll be able to kind of schedule
Dates.
Yeah.
And publicize.
And then once we get it scheduled, then
Okay.
really publicize.
I wonder if I don't know if we talked about it, the idea of maybe getting a parent on that panel.
Yep, I've got, from my notes, I've got Jane Crow, and Katie. It's the reason is that I saw her at a memorial, and she this is what she's doing now, is helping to get pre-K and high quality child care knit together programs off the ground. So Hill, I guess that would be the Hill Institute, the thing that I'm going to at the end of the month. Somebody from BTG, Jim Taft, somebody from the current pre-K staff, somebody who could speak to daycare versus preschool. This is from last week, and a parent. Bill, it was a real shame that you weren't there, but we got a lot done and talked through, I think. So where is Bill here?
Yeah, he's here.
Okay.
And we're adding those ideas from Katie?
Yeah.
To the panel?
Yeah, I'm just reading you from
Okay.
what I wrote down last week, or
Okay.
whenever it was. So that's where we are. Does anybody have any questions or concerns?
When you secure the grant, you'll let us know, and I'm happy to help reach out to people you want on the panel. And I'm sure Katie,
Okay.
Katie may have some connections as well, so just let us know.
Okay.
We're happy to help.
Okay.
If you'd like.
Okay.
And
thank you.
I don't know where this fits in, and I don't want to overstep, but I do think this is part of my drive to email about the other folks coming first before the panel, so that we could be a better informed group to host a panel like this. Even just the conversation right now has drifted away from using the term daycare versus early pre-K. It's more about talking about early childhood or early learning opportunities. There are so many pieces that have changed in the past 2 years, even, that I as I think about the thought of putting a group of people who don't necessarily know each other up on a panel for like we did last December, Bill, when we hosted something not of this magnitude, but when you did that before, this, I think we'd be better informed, all of those of us participating and the boards, if we were brought up to speed, and versus being behind. That's just before we put, I guess my sense is, and I'll respectfully say, we might be putting the panel before the horse. That's
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear
Yeah,
you. Your point is very
when you
well
masked,
taken.
when we met last winter, that wasn't a panel. That was just a,
yeah, it was an open
that was just
forum,
a,
and you
it was a
posted,
forum.
yes.
But this would be, just so you understand, Katie, that the subject matter would be specifically having then seen No Small Matter, what would it be? What would be required? What specifically would be required to get it up and running and working?
And that's
Like
where I think those two
the
agencies
actual-
between Building Bright Futures and Let's Grow Kids have, and Jan's experience dovetailed into that, would be informative, so that, because actually I don't know if I know the people you mentioned, other people you mentioned coming are as keyed in to that as we would like to. I think that there's a level of education that may be needed. So that's,
Thank you
it
for
makes
that.
sense to me to, I mean, either to create the panel and then have what you're talking about, Katie, to inform the panel, or to have what you're talking about and having people come. But I think it would be a good idea to create the panel first, so we know who would be required to go there. To let's call it the pre-K, Katie's pre-K educational session. Because I think that's a great idea to get people on a certain page before the panel meets and discusses things. So.
Yeah, and we also want to make sure we know what questions we want to ask, what specific questions we want to ask. And I mean, it's not a debate. It's a whole bunch of different perspectives on one issue. So that's why we have to.
Am I the only one who's not hearing the owl?
Yes, you are.
He was just talking to us. He must have
Yeah,
just
we can
gone
hear
out.
you. Now we can't hear you.
Can't hear.
Oh, you're muted now.
Yeah, muted now. My volume got muted for some silly reason.
Okay, okay. So, I mean, we don't want to, we don't want to have a scenario where people are going to be competing with each other to, show how much they know about a subject matter. I mean, we don't care about that. What we want is a number of different perspectives on the subject matter. And, the big question being, how do we do it? Or what specifically do we need? And I think it's a really good idea, Katie, to have a kind of pre-meeting. I also think that in the next week and a half, the way will really show if we keep that in our minds. Because I think questions will become apparent, and just as long as we're mindful of listening for the questions, right? But I will, I think your point is very well taken, or your points are very well taken. And I really appreciate you being here to voice them.
I wonder if there is a way, and this is a way of getting the community involved, to get some sort of feedback from parents in the community. Not so much concerns that they would like to see maybe, I don't want to just open it up, but answered in this conversation so that they can be a little bit more involved. You know what I'm trying to make sure that when parents come to this conversation, they're not just hearing lots of experts and their questions are really not answered. A way of letting them know, what questions do you have about? Maybe you would know how to better frame that than I, but what questions do you have around this particular subject or issue? And it can just be something that can just be sent out and put on the school website or something. If you have any particular questions, just let us know. But it's a way of getting them involved before the fact. I don't know if you can do something like that.
Katie?
One of the outcomes of the meeting we had last December was Rachel from Springfield had mentioned surveying parents up through second grade, and I have somewhere the survey questions or what they had done, but looking at asking parents from our existing pre-Kers, second grade up through second grade. So some of those open-ended questions you're talking about, Rebecca, because that's an audience we can get to. And then maybe Courtney McKay has another way of thinking about getting some of our birth through three parents or students who are not in our Act 166 program as well. But I think we could put that up on the website as well as do a school mailing at some point to do an email blast to get that. But just some really open-ended, if I remember correctly, they were really open-ended questions, and I can do some digging around and find those. But she said they found that very useful as they were trying to plan their next steps and what they were doing there in Springfield. I think it's a good idea.
See, I sort of feel, not just, let me be absolutely clear, not that I think parents should be left out. And I do think that they should come to the forum, but personally, the quest is to find out what we need, and then we can take it to a broader community, like, here's what we need, this is how it would happen, and then we take it to a bigger discussion. I'm saying that kind of organizationally, how to actually consider the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So really, that's, in my mind, it would be kind of a broader informational thing, and then based on the information that we have, we can fan out to broader questions.
I see what you're saying, and I think that is really important. I think you're like saying, let's look at the bigger picture, how do we start this and slowly involve
Because we don't know
everyone?
whether we're gonna do it yet. We haven't actually decided, and we would need community input, a lot of community input about that. We haven't gotten there yet. We don't even know what it is.
I know, that's why I'm saying, are we just fishing here?
Well, that's why we need it. I thought that the whole panel was so that we could define what it is. Because one community member I spoke with today said that he had inquired about what could be done to Albert Bridge School. And if we had a certain number of students or children coming, is it really reasonable to think about using Albert Bridge versus using or finding another place? But that, that's the kind of question for Jim Taft, who would be on the panel, whether it's really reasonable to,
So
do you see what I mean? So we can have a framework around it, and then we can take it out to that. That was what I was thinking. So I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page about what the goal is.
Yeah, so it sounds more informational.
I think so.
Okay.
It's
Yeah,
so
to
many people
start.
on a panel
Yeah,
that it's not really a discussion panel, it's more an informational panel. Or that's in my mind, and I'm just one person, so if you want to do it a different way.
no, if it's just going to be an informational panel and we're basically creating information for the public and for us, then that's fine. But the time will come when parents and community, if we even pursue it.
Well, I think, hopefully it would give enough information to really spark people's imagination about what could be. And that would also bring up more questions, right? Which we will have the capacity to address, whether that's answering the question or deciding on something. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, sounds good.
And Jim would know if this has been explored previously and what the barriers were. And I know the current program, and Katie probably knows better than I mean, it was housed in Heartland, I want to say 10 years ago-ish. And I think what I heard was, and it was beautiful spaces for this program, because there's lots of requirements to house an early childhood program in your school. Because it wasn't a centralized location, the enrollment started to decrease over time. Because getting to Heartland wasn't as central as getting to Windsor for all the surrounding communities. So just things to think about. I think just exploring and gathering information to figure out. I love to dream big. Like what can we do for our communities and our children?
And early childhood education would be great, like not only for our students also.
Right.
Yeah, so yes, I love thinking about that too, but it's only going to be a, ponderance if we don't actually
Start
learn
talking about it, learning.
Yeah. And then we can all dream together and have, again, not that anybody is not invited, but the purpose being kind of narrow, just informational here, so that we can.
Yeah, what it takes, what we've explored in the past or tried.
Potential expenses.
Yeah.
What legislation is up in the air? What federal legislation is up in the air? Because I know there's some there as well. So, there's a lot of different pieces too. That's good. Do you think we should send out a survey to parents before?
If it's just going to be informational and we're looking at what the possibilities are, we're looking at what our community resources are, I think that at this point, maybe not. I think maybe we should wait because, as you mentioned, it also can stimulate concerns, ideas, and thoughts on after they see a whole picture, after they see what does our community have, what it doesn't have, does it really need this, and how to, and what would it cost? So this is just information. I'll see how people respond. So right now, I don't think the parent piece is necessary. As long as we make sure that we get the information out to the community on this is what's going on.
Absolutely,
And this is when it's going to happen, and these are the people involved, and
crucial.
this is what it's about. It's just an informational piece.
Crucial.
Yeah.
And not just once, but kind of hammer it in so that people come.
Yeah.
I think. And then we can have some really exciting discussions about. Bill, how are you feeling about all of this?
I think it's a good process, especially with Katie's input, sort of to build on something that will be successful. I think that's the most important thing to me. It's not so much to get something open and get it going, but to be able to explore what, if anything, that this district could do for pre-K moving forward. Like anything, it's that you're going to build that's going to be successful. It's going to take some years. You got to start some point.
Anybody else? Davis? Haven't heard anything at all from you. Is Amy here? No.
Seen her yet.
What are you thinking, Davis?
I mean, I think this isn't very, excuse me, this isn't really my area of expertise, but I'm generally in favor of the idea of doing a forum, and I think, I don't have a great deal to add. I'm just interested in hearing this conversation.
Okay. Nancy, what about you? Do you have any thoughts?
And nothing more to add. I feel exactly the way Davis does. I'm excited to hear something starting. And I think it's probably the best way to have the panel. So thank you.
Okay.
Streaming it from your home versus in a place together?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit? Did you come to any sort of?
We can do either one.
Okay.
But
Or both? Can you do both at the same time?
I think we can do both at the same time. The license from the No Small Matter people would be for the discussion to take place online, and we will be able to leave it up for like 10 days. We would have the permission to leave it up. We wouldn't have the permission to leave it up permanently, but so if we have the screening and the discussion, and that might be a good place for parents to ask questions, actually. If we, there we go. What if we surveyed parents and asked them to send in questions for that would encourage them to attend the screening. If we ask them to send in questions for the director and the teacher. And then they could attend the screening, and then the answers would, so the screening and the question and answer session would be one whole recording that we could post.
Okay.
And we could have access to it.
Would there, Just thinking about being a community member and getting an email, there would need to be a little bit of information on what that is.
Yep.
I don't know if they know what to ask without seeing the film first.
Yep.
Is there a blurb that he has that goes with it that could be sent out?
Probably. I think it's at nosmallmatter.com. Or
And when we advertise, maybe we come up with something,
Yeah.
that goes out to the families.
They have a short press release and a long press release. I'd used parts of this before. So, and it's right there on the website. And it's really good, plus the links. So, and that's available, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
So we might, I'm just thinking about advertising it, with a visual, with the write-up, and then please send in any of your questions that you might have that you would want to ask the director or the teacher involved in the film.
Yeah, and maybe send out a just like a teaser survey to pre-K through 2 parents, saying we have the ability, we'd love to have your questions to be able to ask.
So I guess I just want to make sure I'm understanding what we're talking about with the screening here. Are we talking about doing an in-person screening and concurrently a stream of the film and then a virtual Q&A?
Yeah, I mean, I'm almost inclined to just have it all be virtual.
Okay.
Easier.
Yeah.
I think that would be easier. I guess the only question that I would have is for recording, can we do that all kind of seamlessly on one platform?
Yes.
And okay.
They will take care of that.
Okay, that's great. That was my only question. I know from past hybrid events it can get complicated, but if they've got this all figured out, I just want to be sure. Thank you.
They will take care of that, and then they'll give us a link that we can post and then it'll die after a period of time. And I urge you to watch the documentary if you have time and are of the mind, because it's excellent. Okay. So the goals before we get to the goals derived from our retreat, did you all get the email? You didn't get the email that I sent out today that included the Declaration of Inclusion that we discussed.
Do you want me to present it?
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. I was expecting that.
Here, did I copy you on it, Christy?
You sent me, yeah, I have it right here.
Are we using Declaration of Inclusion or Equity Declaration?
Equity Declaration.
Okay. Just
That
checking.
looks like the right one.
Yep. Except the one that I sent out today, is that where you are? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So Bill, since you weren't with us at the retreat, we talked about simply adopting the equity declaration that the Windsor Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee worked for like 6 months on. And if you look at it, it's really very well done. You can tell that they worked 6 months on it. And we agreed that today we would vote on whether to adopt it.
Yep, that's what we agreed.
And it's worth noting too that this is the one version that the Town of Windsor Select Board adopted, I believe, in February.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you, Davis. So, I'll take a motion to adopt the Town of Windsor's equity declaration.
So moved.
Second,
Okay. Davis, how do you vote?
Aye.
Rebecca, how do you vote?
aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
How do you vote? And, who am I missing? Amy? Amy's not here. Wait, there's one more person I'm missing.
Bill?
Oh, Bill, I'm sorry. You're
Aye.
here. Sorry, Bill. And I am an aye. So the equity declaration now also belongs to us.
I think also one of the things, I don't know how that's going to happen, but we talked about making sure that this was shared in assemblies with students, and we were going to get it out to the public, and also some local newspapers.
Yep.
Newspapers.
Okay, so can you issue a press release? Would you like help issuing a press release?
Figure it out. If I get stuck, I'll call you. How's that?
I think the Al Wakefield package has suggested language for a press release.
Okay.
And I can send you that link, but I can't do it right now.
That's okay.
Yeah, we were going to send a press release out to all
Our newspapers.
our newspapers.
That's the Valley News, Vermont Standard. And there's one.
Eagle Times
Eagle
and
Times.
VT Digger.
And the VT Digger.
Okay. Now, now let's follow up on goals from our retreat. I apologize for changing the order. I should have done that in the beginning when, but I apologize. Okay. Okay, so at the retreat, we talked about a couple of the goals that we had. We revisited our goals from last year, which included it included a number of forums, and we also wanted one of the examples that we had, which we never did do, was what portrait of a graduate looks like in a classroom. And how it is expressed in a classroom. And do we want to keep that as a goal? Do we want to refine that as a goal? Did we drop it for a specific reason? Because it wasn't specific enough, or because there wasn't any interest in it, or yes, Nancy.
I worry about getting people to come out for something vague. Panel to talk about pre-K is something substantial. And the last time we had people looking at the plan, like the first word, hardly anyone came. And so I think they need something to hold on to. And this is what I'm doing. And I'm going to be involved instead of just listening. And I don't know, but that's just how I feel. I want to make sure people come if we're going to do it.
Okay, that's fair, thank you. Anybody else? Does anybody else have goals that they think our board should be addressing this year? And also, now that we have adopted the equity declaration, where do we go from here? As a district, not as a supervisory union. And does anybody else have goals that they would like the board to address this year?
One of the things that we did touch on, but we didn't really, we talked a little bit about it, was how do we determine that our students are being successful? And there are certain criteria that we are using, high school degree, but I don't think that's enough. And there were some other criteria, and I think that maybe we need to really begin to look at how do we define whether our students are successfully walking out of here with the skills that they need, to be successful. Colleen mentioned something which I thought was very interesting, and I continued to think about it, and she had commented on how we have the capstone program for our seniors.
Yep.
And mentioned that that there were students, they were looking at students in 6th grade and 7th grade, potentially focusing in on a particular subject, issue, discipline, and doing something with that. And I thought that idea was pretty exciting, especially now that we're looking at a middle school model. I thought, well, if we're looking at a middle school model and we have capstone for our 9 through 12, for our high school students, maybe we really can look at some sort of a capstone project for our 6th through 8th graders. That's also a time when our where they say research indicates that we either lose our kids from completing high school or we keep them. And I thought, what better opportunity for a team, especially a middle school model team, because that is what, you're working with teams, can sort of pass on to the high school group. It's like, okay, all of our 8th graders, by the end of their 8th grade term, would also be presenting a capstone presentation. I'm not saying that we want to just make sure that 8th graders, we don't want to force them to do anything, but I think it would be valuable to help them identify an area that they are interested in and create a process where they have to do the research, where they need to maybe do some interviewing and develop some of those skills, think critically, think out of the box, before going on to the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. So I thought that that's something that I would love to hear more about, and maybe I'd love for the board to sort of find out from administration, is this something that's even possible? I don't know what goes into the capstone program for the seniors, but I know that I've attended a few of them and they were great. They were just really exciting and really, the presentations were done really well. Students were interested in what they were talking about. They did some really good research. They were able to respond to questions. I would love to see that for all of our 8th graders before going on into 9th grade. But that's just another way I was thinking that maybe we can begin to assess.
Show some success.
In general, across our supervisory union, when, like, okay, first of all, have all of the elementary school teachers been, I mean, I think, I don't know, have all of the elementary school teachers been sort of trained or at least introduced to integrated curriculum?
No. Some have. It's definitely something we've been working on, and through the pandemic, we charged teachers with integrating. I think naturally in the younger grades, you do that as a
Right.
self-contained teacher. I think it becomes less done in middle schools, right? Because you're compartmentalized. So we've really been pushing for integration, and it's hard. It's hard to turn that ship a little bit when you're used to working in isolation. I'm a math teacher, I teach math. So it's definitely part of that middle school model, the goals of middle school model, integrating curriculum. So it's more meaningful, authentic, makes sense to kids, right? And I think it's what we need to do. It's best practice, to be honest. And I think that's what we're working on as a system.
Do you
But
think
they haven't all been
students,
trained.
do you think students in their own minds understand how, excuse me, how subject matters integrate,
How they connect?
how they connect?
No, not typically.
They have to have it pointed, like my middle school.
Yeah, I think, I mean, if you can put yourself back in middle school and you go to math class, you turn your math brain on, right? You leave math class, you go to ELA, and you don't always see the connections, although there are connections. But I think kids are kind of trained them.
What if
In
we,
this-
what if
in
we
this
had,
model.
I mean, when we originally, before the district was merged, when we originally talked about using what we do have at Albert Bridge, we talked about having a fully integrated curriculum, having mountain curriculum. And one of the examples that I gave was having kind of a question that was asked every year that pulled from all kinds of it. Having a question that was asked of the students each year that pulled from all kinds of subject matters. And an example of that would be, why is Mount Escutney such a great place to hang glide? So you'd have to
Think about it in a broad.
You'd have to get sciencey, you'd have to get
Yeah.
kind of another, it's not just the draft, it's not just in Monadnock, it's by a river that's got special air circulation. It's also in a town that's pretty close to a highway, but not at the highway. All kinds of different things like that kind of naturally lend themselves to students having to do that themselves. Bill?
But one of the things that takes about integrated curriculum, and I've worked with a few teachers that were just fantastic at it, including myself, was it takes time. And it takes years to develop it. And that's one of the downfalls, especially in middle school, in which having yearly topics doesn't always work very well because it takes so much time for teachers to work together to create units that integrate science and math, language arts. But it's a great goal to try to build that integration between those areas. My ideal school is which you would have, you know, topics and well, basically you would have science, social studies, and math, and then everybody is a language arts teacher. So, I mean, that's kind of how I taught my middle school class. But it's a lot of work, and I think it's a great goal.
And it's easier when you have the same kids all day. You can do that.
Yeah, right.
It's really hard when you're a middle school teacher, as Bill is alluding to, I think, because, you know, you've got, you're teaching 5 classes a day,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
when do you have the time to meet
Yep.
with your colleagues to do it? I mean, it's been a goal. It's something we're working on, but still in the initial.
I know, and I'm not, I wasn't, just to be clear, I wasn't trying to push that.
No, we are pushing it. It's good for kids.
I was just saying with regards to a capstone project for 8th graders, that they themselves could figure out how what they've learned
Yeah.
integrates. They don't need to have teachers do
Right.
the integrating.
Yeah.
If they can be taught how to integrate the information themselves, to start off the year or start off middle school looking for how things
Yeah.
knit together.
I think some of the work that we're going to do this year with Mike Nicholson in self-determined learning, student agency,
Yep.
lends itself right to that.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's kind of the way that we're going at it this year. So, yeah.
And I think what teachers find is that, you know, in middle school, especially in the younger grades, you're going to have fewer students who are ready to do what you're talking about, Elizabeth. So your
Okay.
percentage of students who are at that level that could self-motivate and integrate an idea themselves, as
I
opposed
appreciate
to
that.
young adults in high school. That's kind of where we want them to be at that point.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Bill. I really appreciate that. Nancy, I see your hand.
One thing we did was when we wanted to do an integrated curriculum for a certain subject area or a unit, the teachers make what they want. And as Bill said, it takes a long time, but then use that as, oh, I'm in 8th grade, we're going to do such and such, you know, keep doing the same unit, the same integration, and getting it better and better each time, but not redoing it every year. To try to integrate units every year is hard. But if you get started on one and you're working with such and such a teacher, and the kids look forward to it because they know it's going to be great and it's fun, and that's one thing to think about, because it is a hard process, and just to get it going.
And our schedules aren't built for it.
Yeah, right. No, I get it. I get it.
We got to figure that out.
Well, why don't we keep on a monthly, our monthly agenda, an exploration of how we determine success. We'll look at it from a bunch of different perspectives.
Yes.
That's a great idea.
It'll be great also to have, once we have student participation.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yep.
get a feedback on what do they see as,
Mhm.
what is success to them.
Yep. Does anybody else have any goals they'd like to explore for our board for the next year? Davis?
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. Did we sort of generally mention that we wanted to re-engage on getting some sort of youth or student member of the board?
Yes,
student
and we talked
liaison
about,
Our staff. Yeah.
we talked about having at least a couple of board members. Rebecca and I were going to come to the first couple of days of school and talk to students during their general assembly in the kind of introductory days, and ask the students, make a pitch, tell them how exciting our work is, but really how important their input is, and try to get them enthused about coming, but also come up with a couple of students to ask. Colleen, I see your hand.
Yeah, after we discussed this last time, Kate and I Mr. Malloy, the advisor of the senior caster, and he is ready to host, and just will be looking for a date as soon as Kate and Sergio and I have a schedule that we could set that assembly.
Okay, thank you. I thought maybe I'm misunderstanding, but I thought maybe you had a and I don't want to speak for Rebecca, but my own understanding was that you had like an introductory just welcoming assembly in the beginning of the, like on the first day of school kind of thing.
I thought we were going to try and present to each grade level.
Okay.
Well, I take that back. 'Cause as I'm thinking about it, that's like a lot of grade levels. But
We're going to get them together, 9 through 12.
Yeah.
Or 10, 11, 12. I can't remember. Colleen, you had the details, so you wouldn't have to do it.
Right, that makes sense, right.
But then you could follow up with kids that are, maybe there's a group that's really interested and they want further discussion. Them together. But Colleen, what was your recollection?
I think we talked about doing it at grade level meetings, and we didn't set it because the teachers would set that once they got to their in-service days and did some of their team planning. But a full 9 through 12 assembly, there is not one on the schedule for the first day. We tend to let the teachers have that time to get to know their students.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate that. Okay, well, we'll set it up and I'll try to get that kind of written up. And do you want to maybe connect about that?
Absolutely.
We'll try to get it written up for you, Colleen, so that, and you, Kate, so kind of by the end of the week so that we can get it rolling, because it's going to speed up unbelievably. And while it's still more quiet, maybe we can get it on the books. How does that sound? All right. And anybody else? Davis, do you have another follow-up to that? No. Okay. Yes, that is in the works. Nancy, are you still here? Yes. You don't have anything. Bill, do you have anything that you'd like our board to work on this year?
I think if I got going, I wouldn't shut up. But I think we have plenty of goals already.
Okay. All right. Well, I think this kind of exploration of pre-K and early childhood, early learning opportunities is a pretty big chunk of meat, and it'll take us a while. So, okay. Now let me just take a look at the agenda. I think we're at the end.
I did have a comment. I should have said it at the beginning, but
Yeah.
I understand that there's going to be some sort of a big presentation on the green on the 31st of August, and this is being sponsored by Mount Scottney and several other health organizations. And the issue is going to be around substance abuse, opiate use, and I think they were going to have vendors, and it just sounds like a great opportunity for families to come and ask questions and find out what is going on in the community and around regarding substance abuse and the issues. And I think it's more like an information opportunity. I don't know how this is going to be set up, but I think they're going to have like vendors on the green. It's free. So I did see that in the town manager's newsletter, and I thought it's going to be on the 31st of August. It's going to be, I think, on the green in the center of town, and it's a community presentation. Oh, it's going to, I don't know. I think it may be like, I'm not sure. I can get you that. I think I can get you that information, but I think it's like a couple of hours, and it's in the daytime.
In the daytime.
It's in the
On the
daytime.
first day of school.
Oh my gosh, really? On the 31st? Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm sure that it's the 31st.
Okay.
So I was not aware of that, but I believe that the hospital is doing a health fair too on the 20th of August, and that's going to be down at the Welcome Center. I believe that's the date. I hope that's the date because I'm supposed to be tabling at it for my day job. But
Yeah.
that's on a Saturday, so there shouldn't be any conflicts with school.
That's next week.
Oh, I know. Yeah, it's flying by. So one more thing, I didn't bring it up with goals earlier because I saw it further down the agenda and didn't want to preempt that. But if we're at risk of moving on, I do just want to kind of throw out the idea of, as we do go about, it sounds like we want to do our forums this year and we want to do more community engagement events. I just kind of want to throw in a plug again for thinking about different ways of doing that, different channels that we can, reach people through, different kinds of, different modalities and just methods of presenting the information to folks. Because I think that one thing that I learned from last year in doing the forums is that even if not many people show up in the moment, if we're recording them and making it so they can access it on their screen later or on their phone later, it's not, I think we need to start thinking about how we're measuring the success of these events that we're doing a little bit beyond who's showing up in person and taking the information. Because really, in 2022, it gets out there through a lot of different channels. So I don't think we need to have a deep discussion about it now, but just in general, as we put these together, thinking about them a little bit more broadly, and then getting outside of the box, maybe doing some kind of new forms of interaction, and make sure we're using all of our communication channels available. Whether it's, I think Elizabeth, you had talked about how in the past it was easier to get a phone list together and do that kind of engagement, whereas nowadays we may really need to think about the fact that there may be some community parents who are primarily using Facebook Messenger to communicate, or WhatsApp, or any number of other platforms. So I think just being cognizant of that as we move into this school year and are planning these events will be that much more successful in disseminating information and encouraging engagement.
Thank you for that. That's what that was. No, thank you for that. Does anybody want to take time right now to brainstorm on it? I mean, I almost feel like the screening of no small matter and that's a good practice waffle, because if we can get engagement at the time of the event, but also have people tune into it afterwards, we'll be able to tell us, kind of balance out our reach. Bill? Can't hear you. You're muted. Of course you are.
Yeah. Two things, and they may be unrelated. First, I just want to make sure, and I'm sure admin is on it at Windsor High School, that Hartford HACDC starts, because I am on the committee. HACDC starts one day before Windsor High School. I'm hoping transportation's done, but also seeing that we're hopefully transitioning out of COVID, that we might have some idea about some of the after school programs that are available for the elementary schools, Windsor schools and Albert Bridge. Because I know at some point we were going to discuss Adventure Club for the entire district and stuff like that. And I have been in contact with Jennifer about what is going on with Adventure Club, because it sort of ended with a question mark.
Is Jennifer still here? Yes.
I'm still here.
Oh, Jennifer, you are going to find out whether Adventure Club ever got its papers filed.
So as far as I understand, we are not currently a licensed after-school program.
Okay.
And we also don't currently have anybody to run it.
Did Emily file the application for it to be licensed?
That is my understanding, is that it was filed with the state, but we are not approved at this point.
Okay. That is
Well, for anyone that doesn't have experience with dealing with the state of Vermont, any approval tends to be a multi-year process. And losing applications is something that the state is really good at. So,
with whom was the paperwork filed? Is it the AOE? Do you know?
I would have to look at that.
Okay. If
Katie might know.
Katie, do you know?
Office of Child Care Licensing, because that's what it goes through. So I would assume that they would have, if the paperwork was in and it wasn't accepted, that they gave very specific details of what they needed. And typically, and I'll agree with Bill, it's sometimes a multi-step, if not multi-year process, but it has a lot sometimes to do with staffing ratios, where's everybody going to be, and not so much about facilities. So it would be interesting to see what they gave back. They must have said, I would hope, something that would give you some idea of where to go from there.
My understanding is we do not have information back to tell us what next steps are, or a denial.
Okay, I will take care of it.
I do have a question based on what Bill said, and that is, so if we start on the 31st, Hartford starts on the 30th.
Sounds like it.
And I know that Colleen had mentioned that we have a large number of our students going to Hartford. That means they would be starting on the 30th, correct?
That is correct.
Billy, you are the liaison over there.
Yeah, I remember being nominated and never got any information, but Christina has been kind enough to send me the schedule because I actually contacted the admin of HACTC and Tom, and they never got back to me.
Okay.
I'll keep you in the loop, Bill.
Oh, thank you, Christine.
All right.
So, if you want, Colleen, Kate, Sergio, Jen, I can ask, Larry's been taking care of busing needs. Do you want me to ask him about the bus needed on the 30th, or has somebody already done that?
I think Kate might have stepped away, but I think it's already done, but you can just confirm
Double
with
check.
Larry.
Okay.
Let's see. Setting our next agenda, I think, is that we already did our items for action. So, setting the next agenda.
And that'll be on the, as is right now, it's the 12th, the second Monday.
September 12th.
September 12th, I believe. I'll double check.
And before we set the next agenda, just very quickly, please keep your eyes on your email from me this month, because I'm going to be sending you updates on things like where we are with the no small matter process and the panel process. And I might need your input, but I also might not. It might be informational, but you'll definitely be hearing from me before the next meeting. I mean, you'd better hear from me before the next meeting. Okay. So we agreed we were going to keep the, we'll talk about the panel. And then movie. And we'll also, hopefully, Katie, we will have had a meeting about the panel by the time of our next meeting. Okay.
So movie and panel discussion at the next, on the agenda,
I'm sorry?
on the next agenda.
Yeah, we'll just talk about how
Summary.
plans are coalescing and
Plans,
then we'll have to also, Christine, make sure that it gets on the SU agenda as well. Because it's an SU thing, not just a district thing. And Rebecca and I will report back on student engagement. And we will also have a discussion about the how we determine success.
Mhm.
And most importantly, we'll talk about the opening of the schools. And I'd really love to hear during that conversation about whether and how, okay, Jennifer Aldridge, are you still here?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, good. I want to hear about how many students wound up going back and forth between how many students wound up transferring from Windsor to Albert Bridge and vice versa. And also the role of the van and whether that has helped, whether that plays a role. I'm positive that its role will increase over time, but
Okay, so you're looking for school choice and how the van impacts that or is involved in that process.
I'm looking for how the van is involved in that process, but also whether it enables more interaction between the two schools, and whether it enables more field, simple one-off field trips, and kind of whether it enables more integration between within our district.
Okay, so likely that information will come over time. I mean, I would be a couple of weeks, we would have a lot of transferring because we're trying to establish standards.
Low expectations, but I just want to keep it on your radar.
Gotcha. Yep, I can do that.
And is September, we will be entering budget season, am I right? Sort of talking about, should we have a preliminary, remember last year we had a philosophical budget discussion where we talked about
Very good.
how we wanted to put our money where our mouth is. Let's do that in September, and that'll be it, unless there's some kind of quarterly money report. Okay?
May I list them so I've got it right? I send them to Lori after
Okay.
our meeting. So I've got the administrative report, and under that I had opening of schools, intra-district transfers, and the role of the van included in that, or do you want those separate from the admin report?
Part of the admin report, but not the only, obviously.
Not the only thing, right? Okay. And then an update on the movie and panel discussion. Student engagement, how the student engagement with you all went.
Yep.
Tyson used to be on the boards, yeah. The ongoing discussion of how we determine student success. And then the preliminary budget discussion on how we want to put our money where our mouth is.
Yep, but can you put determination of determining success at the very end so that we keep it always in the same place?
Yes.
And also,
is that a radar list item? Do you have a radar list?
we don't have a radar list.
Okay. The other school, I believe Weathersfield, I know Heartland, they do, at the bottom of their agenda, they just have an ongoing radar list. So those goals they're working on all year long, they're listed there and they don't forget about them. So they touch base on them regularly, but you have to do it however you want.
I think we should have a radar list,
Okay.
but on our radar list, I think we should put the Windsor Jedi Committee.
Jedi?
Because it's something we touch base on, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a full agenda item
Right.
unless it is.
So would you agree that on a radar list, you might have exploration of early learning opportunities? We'll be talking about that this year, ongoing.
Yep.
Multi-platform community engagement,
Yep.
modalities, and how we measure success, and the Windsor Jedi.
And did you say community engagement already?
Well, I put that with multi-platform community engagement. That all
Okay,
goes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's good? Okay.
Good.
All right, so I'll have Lori put those at the bottom of every agenda, so that
okay.
it just kind of helps keep them in check. And you don't have big discussions, but you check in on them.
The other thing was, what was it? Two small things that we talked about a year ago, but I don't. I would like to have, I think, included on every single agenda, how to submit comments to our board.
For the
Right.
public?
Huh?
For the public?
For the public, yeah.
Okay. How do you like comments to be submitted to the board?
probably submitted to Lori for distribution to
Okay,
our board.
so email Lori.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So some directions on that agenda, telling the public how to submit.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Or they could come in person, but how to address the board.
You got it.
And also our district's mission, I think, is on the agenda, but I can't remember. Is it on this?
Yep, it is on the top, to honor.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. So, just wanting to make sure that all of that is,
Do you put, do
Consistent.
you want your equity declaration on your agenda?
oh, yeah.
Okay, let's add that.
Yeah,
It's not there now, so we'll add that.
Yeah, and I put in the chat, the things that we agreed on at the retreat that we would do as follow-ups to the, that you and I would do in all that spare time as follow-ups to the approval of the equity declaration. Did you see it?
Yep, I see it now.
Okay, and
Elizabeth, the only thing I would add to the how to submit public comments is maybe just a note to clarify whether they want them read during a meeting or whether they don't.
good point, good point.
It's not always one way or the other, clearly.
Yep.
And Elizabeth,
Yes.
when the goal with the van is included in that is that all our hopes of well, I think you did say it about people in our school coming to the high school, but also coming to Windsor, but band and chorus and all of those.
Well, that's the whole thing, right? Is better integration, the ability to integrate more easily.
But
That's the hope. And as I said, I'm positive that it will increase over time, but I'd like to be able to watch the increase from the beginning.
Yeah. Data on that.
Right?
Maybe there's a log, a simple log in the van when it's used. I know, Colleen, you started one with mileage, but maybe we make a little form. It says, where are you going? Who's in the van?
Or, you could ask Larry to create a really simple app.
Yeah.
That everybody can access to very easily. And it just has two questions, like you don't have to even type anything from your phone, you just, what do you call?
Check it off where you're going, like.
Yeah, the semaphore, is that what they're called? The dots, the multiple choice
Oh, yeah.
dots. So that you don't have to try to type anything. You're just 2 or 3 questions. Under 5 miles, over 5 miles. Local between, like one of the questions could be, is it between Albert Bridge and Windsor? Or is it, another one, is it a field trip? Or is it, you know what I mean? What it's used for, how often it's used for that. Like, is it used for a particular program? Or is it used for, the 6th grade students wanting to be part of the middle school thing? Or is it,
How do they sign up to use it? Is it something that we could put into a procedure for when they sign up for the van? So that they don't, I can see them getting in the van and totally forgetting to click on something on their phone. But if it's embedded in the sign up. Yeah,
I think, Colleen probably has better information than I do.
We've just always had the key in one location in the main office, and Administrators just let Terry Haig know when they're going to use it. Teachers had more of a sign out procedure. If it was a field trip, there's the form for the field trip procedure. We've just always had a log right there in the car that had the mileage and location where you were going. So if we want to do it by app and not have the physical log in the van anymore, that's fine with me.
That's
I don't
fine.
care.
If you already have that, that's fine. But just to be, just so that I understand completely, so there are now 2 bands? Yes, okay.
Where do they both reside? One at each school or both in Windsor?
They're both at Windsor right now. We only have one set of keys for the new van. I believe Jim is getting another set. I don't know the status of the key update.
Will it remain of both of them at Windsor, or is that fluid?
I think it's fluid.
Jennifer, what's your impression?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the summer it made sense to have it at Windsor because it was actually used for the summer program. I think as we settle into it, we may find that it's more consistently used or better at one location than the other, but I think time will tell about that.
Okay.
Pretty good at sharing.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think the idea also of having one at one school and one at another school makes sense, but you know, as Jen said, I think after time we'll see where it's most used and where it's most needed.
Yeah.
And there's a log in both vans, Colleen? There's just a template form people fill out to collect that data?
Yeah, I think Larry or Jim Taft always had a log in there
Okay.
in the console.
I really think that one should be at each school. I don't think it makes sense for somebody from, I mean, the whole point is for Albert Bridge to have access to it and not have to come over here to get the access to use a van.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that it makes sense, and if one school needs both, then, you know, they can request the other one, but it does make sense to have one at each school.
It's a half-hour round trip to pick it up.
It's a half-hour round trip to pick it up, and nobody at Albert Bridge will use it if they have to come over to Windsor and check it out, and then also return it to Windsor. It just won't get used, and that's not what we got it for. So.
And if a part of what we need it for is to transfer kids, let's say, for the school choice option, it may make sense to have it at Windsor and somebody who is at Windsor go pick it up at Windsor, pick up the kids in Windsor, go to ABS, drop the kids off, and then it would stay at ABS if nobody needed it at Windsor. And then at the end of the day, they would turn around and drop it off. But a lot of that just has to do with how we're going to navigate some of the transportation things.
Gotcha. I gotcha. Okay. I just want to make sure that you know what I mean.
We're good. We're all good. We'll figure it out.
Okay. Okay. All right. I think that we are done.
I had just one question about, sorry.
It's okay.
So we're going to put no small matter in the panel on the WSESU agenda.
Yep.
In August, which is the 22nd. Can we just put something on that agenda without a conversation with the WSESU board, although you're all on it, so.
We're all on it. Amy would have been here, but I'll try to touch base with her about it.
Okay,
But
so I'll have Lori put it on there, and then when it comes to it, you can speak to it a little bit. Yeah, okay, sounds good.
And Amy was here for the retreat.
Yeah.
She's cognizant of the fact that it's an SU matter and not a district matter. But right. And also, please remind me to bring up the equity declaration
At the
at the SU,
Okay.
so that the other board members are aware that we've done it.
Do you want it on the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I can, again, try to remember to tell Amy, but
Okay. Sounds good.
okay. Anything else? If not, I will take a motion to end the meeting at 8:23.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
I will end the meeting with a voice vote if there are no objections. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Good night.